Good morning and welcome. My name is Jess Jones. I am the Center Director with the Coffer Resource Center, which is based here in Chicago, Illinois, which happens to be intermittently snowy Chicago, Illinois this morning. And I want to welcome you to SoundCheck with Greta Pope. I am so glad you are here. I've said in weeks past, and it remains true, is one of the things that I miss the most about being together in our physical space, for those of you that have joined us at the Coffer Center, is just getting to hear what they've been up to. And I'm so grateful to Greta for bringing this conversation series to the Coffer Center, because this is, in my mind, this is the Zoom equivalent of what I miss getting real time with members of our community. The Coffer Center is a nonprofit based in Chicago, Illinois. We serve SAG-AFTRA equity and union performers, and we appreciate your support. If you're in a position to support the Coffer Center, feel free to head over to coffercenterchicago.com. There is a support us tab towards the top. You can also subscribe to our newsletter down at the bottom if you want to stay tuned for conversations and events such as this. And so we would love to connect with you outside of this space if you are interested in learning more about what we do or staying part of the conversation. Without further ado, I'm going to invite Dr. Greta Pope to the conversation. Dr. Greta Pope has been so gracious to bring these conversations to our space, and I am so grateful to her for spearheading this initiative. So Greta, welcome, and it's good to see you. Happy New Year.
Thank you, Jess. Happy New Year to you. This is so exciting. Thank you so much for having the KRC host this event. It's just so exciting, and we've gotten an opportunity to learn so much about so many different people in our midst that, many times we're just passing, but not really knowing.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I love this space of just getting to talk and check in and be with one another. Like I've said before, it's kind of a nice way for me mentally to ease into the weekend, just because it does feel like catching up with friends. And so without further ado, to allow as much time for the conversation as possible, I'm going to hand it over to you. Oh, I will say one thing before I go dark. Okay. For those that are viewing with us today, if you have questions, feel free to chat or conversation, modulate in the chat box over there. You are welcome to join the conversation as it goes on live, but I will be back at the end to field any Q&A that may come up during the conversation. So feel free to chime in or hold your questions to later, whatever serves you. And Greta, I hand it over to you.
Thank you, Jess. Good morning and Happy New Year. Welcome to the first 2021 edition of SoundCheck. I'm Dr. Greta Pope, and I'm so excited to have this opportunity to visit with creatives from a variety of disciplines about their professional journey. We are in the midst of a pandemic that has changed all of our lives and the ways in which we work. We will use this forum to share our thoughts, feelings, and best practices for surviving this challenging time. Today, our guests are Ilyssa Fradin and Melanie Brezill. Ilyssa Fradin is a proud SAG-AFTRA Chicago member. As a voiceover actress, she has voiced hundreds of commercials and other voiceover genres. An on-camera actress as well, she's appeared in various Chicago shows and indie and feature films. As a volunteer elected leader, Ilyssa represents the Chicago local members both on local and national levels. She looks forward to being face-to-face with everyone soon, whether in a studio, on set, at the casting office, or at a union gathering. Until then, she's grateful for the KRC for keeping us connected. Welcome, Ilyssa.
Hello. Hi, everybody. Thanks for the intro.
Yeah. How are you doing today? Good?
Never leaving the house and having a good time being with my family, all those moving parts.
Wonderful. Well, our next guest is Melanie Brezill. She's a young, talented performer who has been in the Broadway and touring casts of the Book of Mormon. She's also done the national tour of Mamma Mia and has been seen in many other theater productions around Chicago and beyond. On-camera credits include Empire, the web series, Matching Pursuits, and various TV commercials. She is the proud creator of the original docuseries, The Grandmother Project, and we're going to talk a little about that. And she is currently in the company of Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, of course, before the pandemic began. Welcome, Melanie.
Hi, Dr. Greta. Thank you so much for that introduction.
Well, you're so welcome. How are you doing?
Well, I'm super excited to share this time with you and Ilyssa. Thank you, Ilyssa. This is an honor. I'm excited. It's good to see people and talk.
Isn't that the truth? Yes, it is. Well, it's so good to see you. So we're going to get started. So you guys both work in the area of voiceover work and on-camera work. So we're going to talk a little bit about those things and throw in some other things as well. Ilyssa, you have had a long and storied career. Truly storied. Talk to us about what a typical day would have looked like for you before the pandemic. How did you spend your time? What types of projects were you doing at that time?
So in voiceover specifically?
Voiceover, on camera, just whatever your life looked like.
Yeah. So without going back decades, like actually it's very interesting. We've always been, as far as voiceovers, had to pivot and adjust to pretty much auditioning at home. So when you, whatever that was, whether it was, just a simple mic like this one here that you plug in as a USB and then record and then just send an MP3 through some free audio program. Now we have to like up our game. So before that, I was still sending auditions at home, just not really, I don't know, not making it a full-time job at home, even though, you wake up unemployed every day. So basically you're interviewing or auditioning every day. In voiceover, thankfully, it's more of a constant, especially if you're represented by the wonderful franchised agents that I and Melanie are at Stewart Talent. So, but you would actually get in this thing called a car maybe, or get on CTA, and you would go to one of our fabulous professional studios. And I want to shout out to our studios, the audio recording houses. The people that work there are tremendous, and I miss them dearly. And because of my storied past, I have very long relationships with a lot of engineers, and you're friends with them and you know their family. And then you hopefully would make a connection with that producer or creative person that you would see in person. And the reason why I enjoy voiceover is it's, that little story. There's a beginning, middle, and end, and a director is there, and a creative person is there, and you get to finish hopefully within that hour that you're booked. And then you get to see kind of what it looks like, whether it's to screen, to picture, or if you're listening, for a radio spot, audio streaming or whatever. And that was the day. And then you would come home and you'd be like, now what? And then hopefully another audition would come, and maybe you'd get back in that car and look for more parking and go to one of our many casting offices. And that could happen on one day. You would be back and forth or just sitting downtown, or if you're sitting downtown, then you could go to the KRC and just chill and work on your scripts, your sides. And I miss going in for an audition, not the stress level of like waiting to be called. And I don't know about you, Melanie, but that always stressed me out. I'm like, I see my friend, but they're working, so I'm going to be quiet. And then they're like the next person, you're up, and then you run in and you pray that you remember everything, and you're trying to be friendly while remembering everything. And then you leave, and then you're like, okay, now what? And like, if you were with Cargie Ross, you'd be like, I'm going to treat myself to Whole Foods and go get lunch. You know what I mean? Like the little things you would do to win in the day are all now boiled down to, I mean, I can't show you my whole studio, but a blue, a gray, or a screen, a ring light, a loom light, a mic, not USB now. And that's it. It's my day.
Yeah, it's definitely a different world. Definitely a different world. Melanie, what about you? I know that you were doing live theater and you were involved in Harry Potter and the Cursed Child before the pandemic. Where was that show, and what was it like for you when you were told that the show was closing down?
Wow. So I was a part of Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, and we're looking forward to getting back to the stage when it's safe to do so. I was in San Francisco, California, all the way on the other side of the country, just having a ball, really, making magic on the stage, literally creating magical illusions that were just out of this world, even to me being a part of the show. And, you know, everything happened so quickly, really. You know, we started watching the news and we started having meetings. And then all of a sudden, we found out that, you know, the show needed to shut down for safety reasons. And it was an immediate, I just had to shift into gear. So I literally packed everything that could fit in 2 suitcases, came home to Chicago within a matter of maybe 24 hours,
Wow.
and just had to orchestrate, you know, what things were going to look like.
Oh,
And so, yeah, so it was a shift, you know what I mean? It really was a shift. And we all had to do it, right? But
yeah.
it was like, wow. I will say that being an actor, we're used to pivoting.
Yeah. Well, that's right.
We often, you know, you do a show, it closes down or things change or you find out you're on hold and then you find out you're not on hold. And so you constantly have to make new decisions. And so, yeah, it's been a shift. Now, like Ilyssa said, I'm at home. I've had to upgrade my setup, and that really that's what we're doing now. Everything happens right here. I tell my friends, I'm like, I've got a studio. This is Melanie Brezill Productions.
That's great.
Happens.
That is great. That is great. So, Ilyssa, how has the pandemic changed the ways in which you work in general? Have you been doing a lot of voiceover work or on-camera auditions during this time from your home? Have you gotten a lot of calls for that kind of thing? And what type of equipment are you using? You know, and you told us you had been doing this before the pandemic, but that you've really upped your game now. So just kind of fill us in on that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm tech savvy. I mean, I just don't, I don't want to obsess about it. Right. So I'm like, and I know we're all looking for the best deal, but I really like tried the minute it's very interesting. I was not necessarily, you're always, I don't want to say reinventing, but trying new genres. Right. So, you know, not coincidentally, I had an end of the year last December. I kind of took stock of what I'd been doing and what I love to do and how I want to do it. And after being a working union performer for 25 years, I'm like, okay, like, what do I want to do now? My kids are, one daughter is off to college, and I thought, what can I do differently? And then the pandemic hit. So I was already upgrading my studio to do different work from home that I might not be able to get those opportunities because, thankfully I have an agent in New York, a voiceover agent in New York and a voiceover agent in LA. And I wanted to be more accessible. And everyone's like, well, you really need to get Source Connect. So I had that before. And if people don't know Source Connect, go to sourceelements.com. It's a great resource. It is an investment, but I look at this as a business. So I knew, okay, I was shifting gears. And then all of a sudden the pandemic hit and I was like, wait a minute, I have this tool, but I haven't told anybody about it yet. And I just contacted my agents and I said, this is my setup. And our friend, Tim Dodabo, gave me somebody to talk to about a mic and that I liked. The guy said this would probably be really good. And I was like, great. And I put out feelers to my agents and I said, listen, I've got this setup and I'm just sitting here. And I really enjoy it. I mean, it's so much fun to hook up with these engineers in Santa Monica or down in in Manhattan and just be like, hi, like I can't see you, but that's the work. And then sporadically, it's actually really funny. We were at the very beginning of the pandemic when even on camera was shut down. We were doing iPhone auditions and submitting them. And I actually booked one and it went straight to, they're like, yep, that's the one. We're going to use that one. And I was like, oh, and my kid like literally held the phone for me. And I was like, I had horrible lighting. I didn't have lighting at that time. And I was like, oh, okay. And it did. They pieced it together. There were like 10 Chicago actors, I think. Like it was a handful of us that they pieced together in real life. And I've been auditioning, but it's I just miss the community. I miss the people, but I have to say the pivot has been, somehow I knew it was going to happen. I should have told everybody, I guess.
That's great. That's great. Yeah. You were kind of preparing for it before it even occurred, which is which is great. Always looking forward and thinking about what is next.
Yeah, exactly. Like what was next for me in my journey, and it just happened to be a lockdown.
Yeah, yeah, that's cool. Well, Melanie, so you were you doing voiceover work or, on camera work before the pandemic? Is this something new for you, or were you doing a lot of that? And how did you have time to do that with doing live theater?
Yes, well, I was doing voiceover work and some on-camera work before the pandemic. And the great thing about voiceovers is that they're quick. It's a quick turnaround.
Mm-hmm.
So, you get a script, it's usually due within 24 hours. You're reading, copy, as you all know, that's anywhere between 5 and 60 seconds. And so you shoot these auditions off and you release them. And, you go in for a session. Most of the sessions aren't very long, 15 minutes, 30 minutes. Maybe an hour. So I was doing that, but like Ilyssa said, I had to shift.
Yeah.
So prior to the pandemic, I used to be able to send auditions in from under my comforter. That was my studio.
That's great.
La bed. That being said, when the pandemic hit, it really was, it told me that I needed to kick into gear and to upgrade my setup.
Yeah.
And so I have been fortunate to record from home actual audio that has then gone to the radio.
Wow, podcast quality. That's great.
Yes. And so that has been really just amazing, right? Like that we're able, like Ilyssa said, to communicate with clients. Technology is fantastic. And yeah, just treating this as a business, and so making that investment has really paid off during this time. And
that's great.
Safe and happy to be busy.
Yeah, no kidding. That's right. That's right. Ilyssa, have you worked on any brand new products related to your business or not related to your business during this time? I have several friends who are, artistic people, and they have been doing totally different kinds of things during this time. So just wondering if you've developed any new projects or hobbies or anything like that.
That is so interesting. That's a really interesting question, because maybe that is kind of like the necessity to stay creative, right? Because if you're going out pre-pandemic to a studio, you're having that human interaction or that casting, you're having that, and you're getting to play with another person. When you have all this downtime and you're in the same space, static space, or you're, sure, we go out and we walk or whatever, but you're not, you have to come up with ways to, and something that's been really kind of a panic for me is the worry I have for my friends, and especially our members who are isolated and alone. Like I said, I'm very fortunate that I have a family that gets along. Like we actually think we're hilarious together. So it's, a weird sitcom here, but I feel like we have to find that creative outlet. And I did get to do one of Tanya Richard's readings, and a shout out to Tanya. She's a beautiful writer and a very, very important Black voice in today's world, especially our local community. And if you don't follow her, you should. And we did a reading, and in one of those Zoom, just chill readings. It wasn't public consumption out there. And that really filled me for that moment. And then I was like, well, I'm not a writer. So, and I'm not a producer. So I'm working currently with my vocal coach, and I do not like to sing. My vocal coach is Carolyn Brady. She's amazing. And she's like, hey, let's do a song cycle. And I'm like, great. So we're going to try to do one of those where you listen to the digital, like, right? And she's going to, and then you sing a cappella, I guess, well, to the recording, and I'm like, man, this is really causing heart palpitations, because we're starting rehearsals, which is just us, doing our weekly, what I call therapy, because it's really therapeutic to sing for me. It's not a goal in life. And then I also, because of Courtney Rue, and I'm like big on shouting out. So just Melanie, just be careful. I will be shouting you out. But Courtney Rue, the beautiful Courtney Rue, she introduced me to Michael Kostroff out of New York, who's a brilliant actor. And I do a class with him every week. And we just hang out across the country. A bunch of people hang out and do basically just co-star sides and talk the biz. And it's just, I would never do that, either of those two things, if I didn't have to be here finding creative outlets.
Yeah, there's such a need to build community in whatever way we can find it. And it's wonderful. You know, it gives us an opportunity to know people better that we didn't know well before, or gives us an opportunity to know people that we didn't know at all before. So that's great. That's great. You're using your time well. That's good.
Trying to stay sane.
Yeah. Melanie, how about you? I know that you have a wonderful web series on YouTube entitled The Grandmother Project, and I have watched it, and it is wonderful. What prompted you to start doing it? And were you doing it before the pandemic, or is this a kind of pandemic induced thing?
Yes, I actually, so yes, the Grandmother Project series was created pre-pandemic. And it really came from, I found myself living with my grandmother, living with my grandmother. And I've always just admired my grandmother. She is a force. And just, I really thought about all the lessons that, you know, that I was learning being in her presence, and just our relationship, you know, all the laughs and things that we shared together. And so I wanted to create this series to be an homage to Black women and their grandmothers. And so it follows 6 millennial Black women interviewing their grandmothers on topics of love, family, relationships, and basically just sharing that knowledge, those laughs. It's really heartfelt. And it really shows that these women, these grandmothers, they're still growing. They still have goals. They still have aspirations. They are still living their best lives. And yeah, it's on YouTube, and this time has given me a chance to reflect and to think about new programming. So that's one thing that I've been working on, is developing new programming during this time. And like Ilyssa said, really cultivating community during this time. That sustained me. I meet up weekly with a group of artists, and we help each other do read for auditions. We talk about the arts together, we create together, and that has been truly a godsend, really. And fun tidbit, the members of the Harry Potter cast have a book club called Bookworks.
How cute.
We have been in community together this entire time, reading books. I'm actually behind a few, but I'm in that book club and a couple others, and that just sustained me, just this community, being able to talk, being able to use my mind, and being creative. So
yeah, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. So with the Grandmother Project, I'd like to go back to that for a moment. The young women that you found, were they your personal friends, or did you audition them, or how did that work?
So I did know some of the women that were involved, but I put out a big notice on Facebook, and there were many grandmother-granddaughter pairs that I was just meeting for the first time in their home.
Wow.
You know? And we had to pivot. Initially, we were going to film in another location, and there was a day where someone wasn't able to get there, and my producer, who helped to film the project, my cinematographer, there we go, Javon Landry, she's incredibly talented. She had the brilliant idea. She said, well, can we pack up everything and go to their house?
Wow.
Just take it there. And I went, well, why not? And it was the best idea, because now those interviews took place in the grandmother's homes where everyone was comfortable. There's so much character. It was really one of the best decisions. And so, yeah, that was a pivot that we had to do on the spot, and it ended up being brilliant, and just shows you how collaboration, magic happens in that collaboration.
That's right. Well, I would certainly recommend for anyone to view this, because I found it delightful. I love the grandmas. I mean, they were so like with it. You know, when you think of grandma, you think of kind of, you know, grandma, but these ladies are great looking. They're with it. They're, yeah, I mean, they've got it going on. So.
Hey, Greta, can I ask if Melanie, are you able to put a link to it in the chat?
Yes.
I don't know if that's doable, But
Right.
I think like it sounds incredible, and people should be able to, you know, see what. Oh, there, Melanie
Yeah,
just did it.
yeah, it's really good. It's really
Wow,
good.
technology
Certainly,
is
That
amazing.
was that's technology right there.
yeah, pretty fabulous. So, what do you guys think the future looks like for creatives? Melanie, let's hear from you. What do you think the future looks like?
You know, I'm excited about the future. I think that this time has given all of us as creatives a chance to really hone in on the work that we truly want to do and what we really want to say as artists, because we have this time to think. You know, prior to the pandemic, it was busy, you
Yeah,
know, you had rehearsal, you had things to do. And so now I think that there's this amazing opportunity to create and produce your own work, you know, to work on things like my grandmother project. I've had the chance to really think about the stories that I want to tell and really define myself as an artist. I think there's going to be a lot more creative control in the hands of the artist in the future. And I think that that is so exciting. And also in terms of diversity and inclusion, we are starting to understand the importance of representation. We're starting to understand the importance of telling these stories that previously didn't get a shot. And so now that we're able to produce and we're able to write and create and do voiceover and theater, we're going to have an amazing body of work that's going to come from this period of time. Someone
absolutely.
recently, after the plague came the Renaissance, and that's really what I think we're getting ready to do. I think incredibly exciting things are about to come from artists after this period of time.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. And I think you're right. I think you're right. People have had a chance. It's kind of like just a complete stop in all the noise that was going on, all of the things that were happening. And now we are able to create and do wonderful things. I see that someone has posted that it's going to be the Roaring 20s, and I love it. The new century of Roaring 20s. But I think that's very true. I think that's true. Ilyssa, how about you? What do you think?
I love the enthusiasm that Melanie has, because when in my union service, I would go to New York for meetings in the national, and I love New York. So it's I've done negotiations there. To be in a Broadway theater brings tears to my eyes. You know, it's kind of like that aspirational little girl who wanted to be on Broadway. And when that all shut down, I refused to believe that we wouldn't come back. You know, where I feel for my equity brothers and sisters in the sense of the art form that they knew and that they were such a part of and gave such joy to all of us, that I really, I personally hope that philanthropy in the arts will, especially in this new political climate that we're entering in, will be on an upswing. Because what we've seen, you know, the Roaring 20s, I totally get how, but we also had, you know, a Great Depression and a war. So, you know, I would like, I'm very prudent in my budget in that kind of a thing. So I'm really hoping that people see the value in arts and arts education as we go forward. So people can go into educational places and bring the arts back, and that the philanthropic people can put their money towards artists. Because I know that we've successfully come back, especially working SAG-AFTRA with the AMPTP and IATSE and DGA and all of our union and trades partners. We've created amazing protocols and guidelines that have gotten us back to set. So you can do a TV show, you can do a commercial, you could do even an independent film under these protocols to keep you safe. We're not doing it as fast, but we will get back there. The stories are very important to tell, but they're not being told how they should be told. But once we get back, that segment of entertainment, I think, will go full steam. Theater and artists, and like fine artists and people who create and need community, I hope that people really support those issues. And I know we have a host of other people and other communities that need money that need funding. But I'm really hopeful that the arts will have that renaissance and that people will find a way to tell the story and that we can do it. And I'm very hopeful for the summer. That's why like outdoor theater can be the first place that we can just run back and be safe with each other and create. And I look forward to supporting it and being a part of it. And I don't know how we're going to do it, but I'm extremely hopeful. I refuse to give up on live theater and fine arts. I refuse.
Yeah, me too. Hopefully we'll be ready for that in the summer. Wouldn't that be fabulous? I mean, oh my
And
God.
live music, Greta. Oh my gosh, I went to a live music drive-in, right? Like with all the cars, and that was just a great time, a great time. But we weren't together, shoulder to shoulder. I am so looking forward to my friends who are musicians getting back and doing what they love to do and just creating for people. God, I miss that. I've been downloading a lot of independent music and trying to, the hashtag save the live venues and hashtag save live, just constantly trying to promote and help those people.
Yeah, people are struggling.
Yeah.
We're all looking forward to getting back and doing what we love.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yes.
So how have you sustained yourself emotionally during this time? Now, Ilyssa, I'm going to ask you first because you have a family, you have children. What has this time been like for your children? How have you kept everyone's spirits up? I mean, what's been going on in your household and in your life?
Well, I've learned how to play poker. No,
I love it.
and I kill. So my husband was in the arts and had recently transitioned to another job. So we had already been kind of that artistic family in the sense of the freedom of being available and around and supportive. My kids are not, and some parents are like, thankfully they're not in the arts, but they have their own individual passions that they were able to continue doing. I had to do a different mental shift as a parent and realize that I could not make this better for my family. Like I can't make the pandemic go away. And I feel that by being really honest with them, that they were willing to be honest with me. So on, hard days, they were able to express themselves, but to keep things interesting, so to speak. I've been cooking, so that's interesting for them.
Good.
Yeah, because we're all home. Like no one's running to a rehearsal or to a meeting, so we're all together all the time, and they've been alive from that. But we've also like we went to all these like at Christmas time, all these light shows, like whatever I could do to get us to someplace safely in a car, right? So we went to that drive-in movies together. So I tried to find little things, but they're teenagers and they are like this a lot, so with their phones. So it's, I have to say the political climate has allowed them to be interactive in their democracy. So we've actually had really good, healthy discussions on where we are, and it's amazing what I have learned from them, and their community of friends and who they follow, and it's just been an awakening on how much I don't know. So I think that has brought us closer and has made us be able to survive this together. And they're very respectful. I mean, like right now they're tiptoeing upstairs because we're doing this. I have a little sign that says, shh.
Yeah. That is very sweet. That's very sweet. That's wonderful that you've been able to, keep everyone's spirits up, and because that is a struggle. That's a struggle, for us to keep our own spirits up, much less our entire family.
And I think like actors or performers, I mean, we're vain. We have an ego. It's not, we could be very kind, compassionate, empathetic people, but I understand. Like if I have to do a self-tape and they're having a breakdown, I stop what I'm doing and listen to them. And if that self-tape is a minute or two or a half hour late, I'm sorry, my family has to come first right now. So I'm okay with that. I've allowed that. I've enjoyed stopping and listening.
That's great. That's great. Well, I want to take this opportunity to thank you, Ilyssa, for introducing me to Melanie.
Oh yeah.
Know Melanie before, and you contacted her and brought her along for this, and what a pleasure it is to chat with her and to chat with you. I mean, this is just it's so interesting. And you have a family, and you're at a different career stage. It's nice to hear from Melanie, who's kind of more at the beginning career stage, having a very successful career, but you know, a little bit more at the beginning. So Melanie, I'm going to ask you, how have you sustained yourself emotionally during this time? Do you live alone, and how have you kept yourself hooked up?
Yes, so I do currently live alone. I'm very close to my family. We are what they call enmeshed. We are so close. So we talk daily, and we have really made a point to connect with each other on Zoom. And, you know, I'm so grateful for this technology. My family actually has an annual family reunion that we have had for over 85 years.
Wow.
So this annual, and we meet annually. Every year we get together and we celebrate the family. And so this year, you know, with the pandemic, we had to shift. And we realized this was something that is so important to us, and we could not let it drop. And so I organized, along with my family members, my sister, and just family from all over, we put together a virtual family reunion. And we celebrated each other, and we did those things virtually so that we could still celebrate, you know. Like Ilyssa said, community is so important. And so I have been probably more in community with friends and people in the business this year and this past, you know, in 2020 than ever before. You know? And because we're having that chance to talk intimately like this, you know, and last year really gave us all an opportunity to hone in on what's really important. And so emotionally, I've realized, you know, things that are important. I'm not worried so much about what I'm wearing, or just a lot of the things that used to stress me out as an artist. I'm realizing they're not that important, you know.
Important. That's right.
Finding grace for myself. You know, if a tape is late, it's late, you know, because we're all dealing with so much. And there are times during this pandemic where we've had to reprioritize, like, and prioritize self-care and prioritize our community and family members' needs. And so that's really what it's been about for me, is really being connected to the people that care about me, my community, and taking care of myself really as best as I can, and trying to stay safe. So
that's great. That's great. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Melanie. I'm so happy to have an opportunity to meet you. You're just wonderful. I'm I'm delighted. So I'm going to call Jess back and see if we have any questions. We have quite a few comments, not any questions though. Several people, Melanie, have said they love your grandmother project.
Oh, wow. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, and I dropped the link over on Facebook as well, so our Facebook audience can also access that. And if you're watching this, the Facebook conversation is archived on our Facebook page, and this conversation will also be archived on our YouTube page, so you could watch this stream as well as catch up on our previous conversations. So this will also be when I solicit our viewing audience, if they have any questions, to feel free to drop them in the Q&A if you're here on Zoom with us, or in the chat if you're on Facebook. While I was listening to you guys, I feel like I came up with my own little, like, inside the actor's studio, I'm going to ask you questions and I want you to give me one-word answers. And I think I want to make Greta do this too. Okay. Make her subject to my whims of fancy. Because some of the conversation points you're having made me want to ask like specific but one-offs, like not extrapolations. And so I have a list of 5 things that fall under the header of what have you? And so I'm going to start and we'll go around. What have you, number 1, watched or streamed? So tell me something you've consumed during this time, whether it be a live event broadcast on Zoom or something on one of the platforms. Tell me something that you discovered or watched during this time. And
only one thing,
or like your fan favorite, or a couple if you need to segment it into like pre-recorded streaming on Netflix or Amazon, and this thing that happened on Zoom, whatever. All things are good. I'm gonna start with Melanie.
Okay, so there's a show, and I don't want to butcher it. I'm looking just to make sure I get it right.
I threw it to you while you're making sure your accuracy is on point.
Yes. So it's called Blood and Water on Netflix. It is a South African series that was so juicy and good. And that was one of my favorite things that I've watched during this time. It is so, you really have to watch it if you want to get a sense of what it's like in South Africa. And it follows these teens at this prep school, and it's just juicy. It's drama. It's great.
I'm writing it down.
Yeah, put it in the chat.
Ooh.
Remember
Blood and water. All right.
Water.
Alyssa, what do you got?
Man, can I be real? I got to do a couple of shout outs. So when we first went into this pandemic lockdown, I was like, I didn't have anything, you guys.
Mhm.
Like I just watched TV. Like I was too busy.
Yeah.
So I saw that it was Stephen Sondheim's birthday, like 90th birthday. And I watched a Zoom stream of his birthday with all my very favorite like Broadway stars singing.
Wow.
I found all this music that I love of his, and I was like, oh my God. And then all of a sudden everything started streaming, right? And then I was like, I said to my family to keep them occupied, we should really get some streaming platforms.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have any. So, cause I'm a Luddite that way. Again, frugal. So I said, so then I got and Netflix, and I watched what do you call it? This crazy show called oh man, it's like Melanie, you're right. You want to get it right. Teenage Bounty Hunters. It's crazy stupid. And then I was like, oh, look at all this stuff. So then I fell into Queen's Gambit, and The Crown, which are by far, like I watched sitting and nobody watched it with me. I just was like addicted. But what I've been watching lately are my West Wing reruns, realizing that nothing has changed. And if you want to see some great writing and go into the way back machine on HBO Max and watch yourself some West Wing. I'm on that's when they used to do, 22 episodes or plus. Can you imagine the skill set? It just amazes me. And I've been enjoying West Wing. There you go.
Love it. I got to go back and say Queen's Gambit though. I want all of the clothes.
And she has them all. In an interview, she said they gave them to her. They're just currently in a museum right now.
Oh gosh. Like, as a performer, you like in those fittings, like it was the same thing even when Cruz was showing me some of her stuff when she just did Fargo, when she was showing me some of the pieces, I'm just like, I'm drooling because you're like, you wrap that day and you just want to squirrel something away in your go bag, like, oops, that skirt disappeared, because it's all so good. And you're like, it doesn't fit anyone but me anyway. So what are you going to do with it?
Right.
Greta, what have you been watching?
Well, I've been watching The Queen's Gambit, The Crown, and I've loved them. But something that I have watched just religiously that I love. Well, first of all, I will say that I've been taking French lessons during this time.
Ooh.
Language lessons. And I've been watching Emily in Paris.
Mm-hmm.
It's in English, and it's so darling. But there are a lot of French phrases, and so that kind of helped me to ease into that. And then there's another show, it's on Netflix, I can't recall the name of it, but it's a show that talks to chefs, and it is a French show. So I listen to all these recipes in French, which, it has subtitles, thank goodness.
Yeah, it's a horrible language, French, right? Like American dialects are so sexy and French is just horrendous, so. Okay, next on my list, but you're talking about chefs, and it's funny because that's a perfect segue. I want to know name one new thing you've cooked or one thing that you feel proud of that you've done in the kitchen during this time. Because I feel like this has been the big culinary experiment. You keep looking at these utensils and devices and you're like, what thing can I make? So I want to go around starting again with Melanie and name something that you've kicked butt at. I'm sorry, Melanie. See, you keep being the first in the hot seat where you get like 10 seconds to think about it.
You know what? I'm going to have to go with this amazing vegan chocolate cake that I have perfected during this time.
Wow.
I did not tell my mom and grandmother that it was vegan because I knew. I'm like, if I tell them they're going to turn their noses up and they're going to say, and so I said, oh, I made a cake. And I brought it and I said, I want you to eat it, while I'm, here. Of course, masked and all that stuff. And they, I stayed at my distance, and my grandmother's like, it's good. And I'm like, you like it, right? And so I waited until they really ate it, and I said, it's vegan. Myself, but I was, I'm looking to incorporate more vegan choices, and it passed. So yes, I'm proud of my vegan chocolate cake.
That's great.
Well played.
Now you need to share that recipe
Yeah, you're gonna have to
in
drop
the
everything.
chat.
Yes, absolutely.
Share it, it's got to be my secret now.
People will just try to show up at an event with you now where there's shared plate situation, and be like, if there's a chocolate cake, that's Melanie's vegan chocolate. Ilyssa, what about you?
So my daughter decided to become vegetarian. And I have learned to become a short order cook because it's just one of those things. So the thing that I have successfully figured out is how to cook tofu for her, because one daughter doesn't eat red meat and the husband does. And so I'm like, okay, so you will get the red meat dish, and you will get the chicken dish, and you will get the tofu dish. And then I eat whatever's left over. So it's kind of like, but there's really no great recipe. I personally make a really kick-ass, and this is my favorite thing that I make, like a homemade spaghetti and meat sauce kind of thing, like meatballs. And so I've done those in plant-based meat and real meat and turkey meat, and everybody gets their balls.
You've got one recipe that you've modified for all audiences.
Well, the
So I think that
sauce
is-
stays the same,
Yeah.
like the homemade, it's, no jar or anything, people. So I'm pretty proud of that. But the fact that I can like multi-ball, I think that's pretty good.
Fantastic. That is fantastic.
We have another person joining the feed.
Oh, hello.
Hello.
Want to wave?
What a cutie pie.
Say hi.
Hey. Waving.
Greta, what about you? What are your culinary experiments?
Well, I'm going to go back to the movies for a second. I watched a movie called Julie and Julia. You guys have probably seen it. It came out many years ago.
Mhm.
I was very tempted by this beef bourguignon that was Julia Child's recipe. So I made it, and it was so, so, so good. My husband loved it.
I think that's one of those movies where you feel like you should cook along with it, because I used to have this experience as a kid when I'd watch Charlie Chocolate or Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. That the moment it came on, like even the opening title sequence was like a conveyor belt with chocolate. And I had to go to the kitchen and start like rating the bittersweet chocolate chips for baking, because I was like, I can't watch this movie without something. Right. I think Julie and Julia is that same way. It's like you have to cook something.
Yes.
How long did that take you, Greta?
Yeah.
Well, it has to cook a very long time.
Yeah.
It's like 4 hours or 5 hours of preparation and preparing and cooking, but it was wonderful. I was doing nothing that day.
Clearly, that's kind of normal for us right now.
I've been teaching voice lessons, but this happened to have been a day that I had no lessons, nothing. And I thought, I'm just going to spend my day doing this. It was wonderful. It was wonderful.
On Facebook, Shannon says multi-ball. I love it, Ilyssa. So I think that meal when you serve it for multiple audiences is now called the multi-ball.
Yeah, you want the multi-ball.
There you go.
That's great.
So I'll make items 3 and 4 a combo answer. What have you started doing and stopped doing during the pandemic?
I have
So maybe a new habit, or a habit you've broken, or a new practice and something you've given up, or.
I have an answer for that. And that answer would.
Do you want to start, Greta?
Yes, exercising. I started, and I've been doing. I was doing it quite well, and then I kind of fell off the wagon. So I haven't been doing it quite in the way that I would like to have been doing it.
Nice. I think exercise is necessary right now when we're not going outside.
Absolutely.
So, okay. So anyone else got to start doing or stop doing, or both? I can answer this one while you think. I have stopped apologizing for how I feel.
Oh,
good.
Right. And really tried to become friends with it. And I think that's it. I've started, and this was something that, like, when everything happened last week at the Capitol, instead of like pontificating on it, I threw up on my Instagram a emotion chart. I'm like, hey, for those of us that have been like emotion avoidant in the past, find your coordinate and name it. Like, what is that feeling in your body? You know what I mean? Like, because I think that part of it, so I've started not just like stopped apologizing for how I feel, but I've started trying to like name it, because I've been so like that with it, that like you become emotionally dead when you don't name how you feel, and like also like name its symptoms. Like, that feeling in my body is what, and it falls under the header of this. So when I start to feel something in my body, my brain might actually go, oh, I feel anxious, oh, I feel sorrowful. Like, you know what I mean? Trying to name it so that it becomes something that I'm more familiar with, instead of just like, oh, negative feeling, I'm going to run now. You know what I mean? And not really get into bed with my responses to things. So that's my start and stop combo platter, is stop apologizing and start befriending.
That's great. That's great. And I think probably something that has allowed you to do that is the fact that we are kind of, as Melanie was saying, everything has stopped, and we're having a chance to, look inward and really
Right.
reflect on things that we would not really have taken the time to do before.
Just like you have time for beef bourguignon.
Right. Right.
Similarly, there are time for these things now.
Yeah, that's right.
Melanie or Ilyssa, do you have a start or stop?
Wow. I've started reaching out more to people, and like really reaching out. I think I used to feel awkward before, or feel like, oh, people are going to be busy. And now, like, I have no problem like organizing a virtual game night and just like calling people, or like if I get an impulse to respond to somebody's Instagram, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to send them a line. Why not? Or like, why not? Because like we need that interaction. And I've stopped. I guess I'll be really honest. I've stopped really wearing real clothes. Stopped wearing bras. But you didn't hear that from me. But really and truly, I'm like, who needs them? This gay dressed. So here I am with a real outfit on. But honestly, I have stopped. I'm like athleisure every day, all day. And I'm free. I'm comfortable. And yeah, jeans, I realize how like oppressive they are in this time. Like, why was I ever wearing these? I don't know if I'll ever be able to put on a pair of jeans. That's what I've stopped doing.
Pants with buttons are highly overrated.
Mm-mm.
If it doesn't have an elastic waist, who's here for it?
No thanks.
Ilyssa, what about you? Do you got any?
Jess, yours was so powerful. I was like, wow. I so I started back journaling. I had always journaled, and then when I had my kids, it became harder to stay awake to journal because I'm not a morning journaler. I'm an evening one. And so when the pandemic happened, day one, I just started writing. And so I have like a section that's like the personal stuff, like that would happen. And then the other side is my my attempt at my tight 5, my tight 10 and stand up. If I ever, like, that's, the dream job for me is to be persecuted and stand up. But but I have like a separate book that's that. So that's what I started doing for my own, like, I guess, outlet. And then I'm with Melanie. Like, I stopped wearing pants in the sense of jeans, right? Unless I had to. But I've also stopped wearing heels. I stopped wearing makeup. I stopped wearing, and it's okay. I don't mind it. Today was different. I put makeup on, which is kind of hilarious because I'm like, whoa, how do I do this? But no, I can't. I'm trying to think, like if I've done anything like you, Jess, where I'm like, stop beating myself up, or like, I think that's really something to consider mentally, how to make stopping not negative.
And I
but
think
positive.
it's like one of those things that's come up in a previous week too, Greta, don't you say? The idea of, if you come out of this pandemic not changed, then you didn't like take the note kind of thing. Like you didn't, you know what I mean? And I think that goes in both ways, because I think we have that opportunity coming out of this to redefine like a lot of things that don't serve, you know, the things you are going to do and the things you aren't going to do, you know. And like to your point earlier about like family, like stopping for family, like that doesn't have to be just during a pandemic, right? When there's a sense of urgency to meet people's emotional needs, like we can always advocate to make space for the things that we want to prioritize and like treasure above all else. So we can stop making other people's fires our responsibility, you know what I mean, and start, you know, like it's an interesting question, because I think this moment is the time that we can ask ourselves the question so that it becomes like an ingrained, you know, mode apparatus, you know, in the next chapter, you know.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really, because I feel that in reflecting, like stopping and listening to my kids, because they're not like, oh, I'll get to that later, like just stopping and having a conversation is the same thing as what Melanie is saying, where she's stopping and she's reaching out. And I think that's a great lesson that you're saying, I'm just about how have we changed after this situation, and it's not normal, so I don't want it to continue on. But I do want to take these lessons and continue them, right? Like I hope I can keep stopping and listening
and define the priority for ourselves instead of
Yes.
assuming a priority of someone else, right?
we're very, I mean, I know this, I do take stock in that we're very lucky that we're able to be here today and share this, and that we're healthy and working, and I mean, and able to give to one back. I just, you know, I wish we could do more for other people every day, all day long. I just don't, there's so many people that, so I feel I'm not going to leave here going, this was great, without recognizing that people are not as fortunate as us.
Right. That's right.
I do think this is a chance for, I agree, Ilyssa, that empathy, right? Like empathy is so important. And we've seen examples of people that have not had it during this time. And we've seen the power of it during this time as well, and how we really need to hold each other. We need to hold each other. And we've seen that. And we as artists, you know, as Greta said, you know, I worked in the theater. I work with live theater, and that is not happening right now. And so how have we been able to hold each other and have that empathy that there is a very real crisis happening right now that is affecting real humans, and we need to show real empathy and grace towards each other in these moments. And so I think that's definitely how I've been changed. You know, I consider myself an empathetic person before, but definitely now it's got a deeper meaning for me, you know, that we are each other. We have to hold each other during these times. So that's real.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
My last two, I feel like we pretty much kind of just covered, because I was going to ask, what have you missed and what have you learned? But I feel like we've really just nailed the learned. So I guess maybe I'll just end with like, what are you, and I'll flip it on its head. Instead of what have you missed, it'll be, what are you looking forward to? What are you looking forward to after this? And that can be my closer.
I'm just going to say what the obvious is. I really miss hugging people.
Me
I
too.
miss hugging, but I mostly miss hugging my mom and dad.
Yeah.
So I can't wait. That the minute somebody rips off this horrible Band-Aid, I am going to squeeze them so hard that it will hurt every ounce of them and me, and it'll be filled with so much love.
Yeah, I'll echo that. Like I said, my family, we're so close, and we have not gathered. You know, we didn't see each other for Thanksgiving. We didn't get together for Christmas. Everything's virtual. So I cannot wait to hug all of my family. And yeah, and just really just spend time with them, you know, game night and share meals with people. I used to love going out to eat and going to brunch, a backyard cookout. Are you kidding me? That's my favorite thing to do. I love to be in, you know, I love to gather, like go to fireworks and things like that. So I cannot wait to do those things. And I can't wait to get back on stage. I can't wait to be back with the cast of Harry Potter and to be telling these stories on stage and to hear the audience and to hear those stage manager calls.
Yeah.
Oh, 5 minutes. This is their 5-minute call. I can't.
Melanie, did you see somebody put up a YouTube of somebody and that auditory experience, like it was almost like a physical kinesthetic experience for anyone that's worked on stage, because they just had someone calling,
Yes.
the pre-show calls.
I cried. All and I'm like,
Cute.
we're trained. I'm like, oh my gosh, places.
Yeah.
I can't wait. I'm gonna celebrate so much when I hear that again.
If you live in my house, you get to, when I say dinner, I say dinner in 5 minutes. They go, thank you, 5.
Thank you, 5.
Very cute. That's great. Well, I agree with all of those things. I'm looking forward to hugging my family and my friends and just being able to interact and go out to eat, Melanie, and all of these things that we took for granted before, and that's one of the things that I think is a takeaway for me is gratitude for what we have right now, the appreciation for what we have right now, and just think how fabulous it's going to be when we get back some or all of the things that we've had in the past. So it's fantastic. I want to thank Jess. I want to thank Henrique. I want to thank Ilyssa. I want to thank Melanie. This has just been a wonderful, wonderful conversation. Thanks, you guys, so much. Jess,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you guys for being here. Thank you for the folks that are with us on Zoom, and for those that are still listening on Facebook as well. It's been good being together. I hope you can join us for future weeks. We're going to be doing this every Friday at this time. And Melanie and Ilyssa, thank you for being here with us for the kickoff of this new year. It's been a tone setter, and it's been wonderful to share this time together with you guys.
It was wonderful.
Yeah, thank you for being here. Everyone have a great weekend. Stay safe, stay sane, stay healthy, and stay connected. Let's keep the conversation going. We look forward to talking with you guys soon. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Thanks, Jess. Thanks, KRC.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.